Okay, this chapter is the urinary system. We're going to start with the functions of the urinary system. So the job of the urinary system is to filter the blood to produce urine. And by doing that, it is going to get rid of metabolic waste. Okay, another function is regulate blood volume, okay, by regulating the water output, meaning regulating the amount of urine that you're going to urinate. More urine you have, less water. Same thing with electrolytes. If you are able to eliminate electrolytes, you're able to control the acid-base balance because you're going to have less hydrogen. Secrete hormones such as erythropoietin. Erythropoietin is released when we need to provide more red blood cells. Erythropoietin goes to your bone marrow and stimulates the production of red blood cells. Help regulate calcium homeostasis because, again, help us eliminate electrolytes and substances such as calcium. They clear hormones and drugs because we filtrate and we secrete these things through urine. They detoxify free radicals, same concept, because we are able to eliminate these things through urine. And in certain situations, it helps us support blood glucose by synthesizing glucose from amino acids. Okay, another function is it helps us in the formation of vitamin D. So we keep scrolling down. There's a very important waste that we need to eliminate through urine, and that's the waste that contains nitrogen. That's why it's called nitrogen waste. What is the waste that contains a lot of nitrogen? It's going to be ammonia, urea, uric acid, and creatinine. These four substances are toxic to humans. If we keep scrolling down, excretion. Kidneys to excrete metabolic waste from our body. That's not the only one. The skin as well with sweat, the digestive system, as you can understand. And that's it for this part. Next topic is anatomy of the kidney. Kidneys are located in the abdomen behind the peritoneum. Therefore, they are considered retroperitoneal organs. If you cut the kidneys in half, you're going to see these structures in there. The outside, this is the cortex. It's covered by a capsule. If this is the cortex, then this part is the medulla. In the medulla, you can see this structure like triangles. They are called pyramids. This is one pyramid. This is another pyramid. In between the pyramids, you have the columns. These are the columns. Then you have the renal papilla, which is the tip of the pyramid. Then you have minor calyx, which is this part right here. Then you have major calyx in here. This is the renal pelvis. Those are the microscopic. Once you cut the kidneys, you are able to see that in there. If you scroll down, the kidneys receive blood through the aorta. The aorta is going to give you branch, which is going to be the renal artery. This is your renal artery. It will go and start giving you more and more branches, eventually ending up with a capillary. This capillary is going to be called the glomerulus. The glomerulus is a fenestrated capillary because it has holes. The holes are necessary so we can actually filtrate the blood. When the blood returns into your heart, before it does that, there's one special set of blood vessels called vasa recta. If we keep scrolling down, we can see this is the glomerulus, and it's covered with a capsule. It's called the Bowman's capsule. Glomerulus, and you have a proximal convoluted tubule, which is this one. Then you have a loop of Henle. You see it goes all the way down, and it's going to end in the distal convoluted tubule. This is the nephron. This long tube that you have right here is a collecting duct, but the collecting duct is not part of the nephron. So we scroll down, we have the nephron. We said that the nephron is going to be the glomerulus, proximal convoluted tubule, and distal convoluted tubule. The renal corpuscle is just this part, the glomerulus and the capsule. The renal tubule, this is the glomerulus, proximal convoluted tubule, loop Henle going down and up, that's the loop, distal convoluted tubule, that's the nephron. Remember, this is the collecting duct, but collecting duct is not part of the nephron. So we keep scrolling down. In there we have proximal convoluted tubule, nephron loop, distal, collecting duct, we already talked about it, cortical and juxtamedullary nephrons, and renal innervation is given to you by your renal plexus, and that's it for this part. Okay, the next topic is urine formation 1, glomerular filtration. Filtration is not the only thing necessary in order to form urine. As you can see here, it says the urine is formed in 4 different stages: glomerular filtration, tubular reabsorption, secretion, and water conservation. So the first part that we're going to see is glomerular filtration. If we scroll down, we can see that we have a filtration membrane. We need a filtration membrane so we can actually filter these things. That's going to be the walls of the capillary where the fenestrations are, the basement membrane, and the filtration slits. If we scroll down, we can see those things right here. This is where the blood is. These are the walls of the capillary with the holes with the fenestration. These are the basement membrane, and these are the podocytes. So everything that is going to get filtrated from your blood into your tubes where the urine is going to be located must go through these spaces, through the basement membrane, and through these spaces in between the podocytes. The only thing that will get filtered is only those things that can pass through these things. For example, you have a red blood cell in here. Red blood cells cannot cross this, therefore red blood cells cannot be found in urine. Let's scroll up to see the podocytes right there. This is a podocyte. You see, and this has this finger-like extension that are going to wrap around the capillary, therefore being part of the filtration membrane. And those extensions are these ones right here. So if we scroll down, we can see what are the forces that are going to make the filtration possible. Here you can see that the arrow pointing this way, that is going to force the filtration, is greater than these other two. So at the end, there is a positive pressure of 10, which is going to force things to be filtered out of the blood into the glomerulus. So if you keep scrolling down, you can see in there glomerular filtration rate, which is the amount of filtration that you're going to get per minute. And as you can see here, it's approximately 125 milliliters per minute. But if we put this in days, basically gives you 180 liters per day in the case of males, or 150 liters per day. But we don't urinate 180 liters. We urinate, as you can see here, only 1 to 2 liters, which means that most of it, 99% of whatever we filter, gets reabsorbed. Therefore, this glomerular filtration rate must be controlled, and because of that, we have the next topic in here, which is regulation of glomerular filtration. Okay, let's take a look at the regulation of glomerular filtration, and we see in there renal artery regulation. There are two very important processes for this: the myogenic mechanism and the tubuloglomerular feedback, which falls under the juxtaglomerular apparatus. Let's take a look at this with a little bit more detail. Right here we have this figure, and we can see that you have a blood vessel. When blood pressure increases, this is going to try to push the blood vessel out, but since the blood vessel has muscle, the muscle will constrict. That's the myogenic. Then you have this other part, the juxtaglomerular apparatus. So the juxtaglomerular apparatus has three pieces, and these are going to be macula densa, mesangial cells, and granular cells. So when you filter a lot of blood, you're going to filter a lot of salt. So you say you filter in here, and the salt, since you filter a lot, the salt will go through the tubes. This is one tube, the nephron loop. Salt in the tube is going to get in here. Macula densa is going to capture that information that there is a lot of salt. So then macula densa is going to produce ATP. Mesangial cells are going to produce adenosine out of the ATP, and the adenosine will stimulate the granular cells to produce vasoconstriction. If you produce vasoconstriction, less blood goes in here, therefore you filter less salt. The next control that you have to pay attention to is this one, the sympathetic nerve fiber. When your body needs a lot of blood in other places, it's going to use the nerve fibers in there. For example, let's say you don't have enough blood in your brain and you're about to pass out. So where do you need more blood? In your kidneys or in your brain? Since you're about to pass out, then obviously in your brain. So then this nerve is going to produce vasoconstriction. Therefore, it limits the blood going into your kidneys, and it redirects this blood into your brain so you don't pass out. The granular cells, in addition to produce vasoconstriction, the granular cells produce renin. Renin is part of the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone mechanism. So if we scroll down, we can see here the juxtaglomerular apparatus. We say we filter a lot of salt, high filtration. Eventually, you produce vasoconstriction, you reduce the filtration, therefore you reduce the amount of salt. If you scroll down, right here you have sympathetic control. We said we redirect the blood to areas where we need it. The next topic, the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone mechanism. In this case, the granular cells produce renin. Renin is going to activate angiotensinogen that comes from your liver. When it cuts the angiotensinogen, you're going to transform that into angiotensin 1. Angiotensin 1 gets transformed into angiotensin 2 by an enzyme produced by your lungs. What enzyme is this? The angiotensin converting enzyme, or ACE. Angiotensin 2 will work in your brain, in your blood vessel, and in your kidneys at the level of the adrenal cortex. In the adrenal cortex, you're going to produce aldosterone. Aldosterone will work into your kidneys, and it will retain sodium as well as water, and this will increase the blood pressure. Produces vasoconstriction, increases blood pressure. In your brain makes you feel thirsty, and that increases blood pressure. So then renin is released by the granular cells when the blood pressure drops.